Hello, my name is Nesrin Bahçelerli. I want to present my research, and my research title is The Evolution of Distance Learning in Tourism Education in the Pandemic Process. First of all, I want to start the introduction and, of course, about the literature review according to my research. The training and employment of the qualified employee is an important issue in the emerging areas of the global business world where fierce competition prevails, in particular the qualification of the personnel to be employed in the tourism industry, as it ensures the quality and continuity of the service, the knowledge and skills of the employees to be employed in tourism enterprises gain importance. And the tourism sector has a dynamic structure that is based on a supply-demand relationship and can show positive or negative reactions to extraordinary situations that will occur in global environments, events or destinations that provide a high tourist concentration in the regions where they occur, and they have profitable effect in the host countries, and the attractions that make them unique have a positive effect on the earnings from the tourism sector. Unforeseen and undesirable situations such as epidemics also create negative consequences for the tourism industry, such as changing travel activities, canceling reservations, and closing borders globally. Tourism is one of the industries most affected by the differences that may occur, and tourism, which can also be expressed as a bond that brings people together and unites people, is faced with a situation very different from the crises such as terrorism, war, earthquake experience in different destinations in the previous periods. Because these crises were experienced throughout certain countries or regions, and solutions were found for this crisis. However, since the global crisis environment caused by the pandemic is thought and predicted, serious developments have been experienced, the results have emerged. The pandemic, which created a global impact, deeply affected the tourism industry, interrupted the activities of all parts and stakeholders of the industry. As in all sectors, the pandemic has affected the education sector, and face-to-face education has been suspended almost all over the world. In order to ensure the continuity of the existing COVID-19 education system in the world, and to ensure the learning of students in all conditions, education systems have switched to distance education applications with their facilities. In the context of the tourism educations all around the world, the main focus is on vocational education. In general, vocational education is the process of enabling the individuals in a society to have a profession and provide the individual with the knowledge, skills, and application skills required by the profession, and to develop one's abilities, physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and economic aspects. In tourism vocational training is an education that includes various disciplines ranging from theoretical and practical learning to professional ethics and the basic principles of the profession, and should be provided for a specific job. The main purpose of vocational tourism education is to provide qualified employees required by the tourism. In that reason, the tourism curriculum is developed with the practical courses and practical-based courses. And tourism education institutions provide both lower level manpower that can provide many services required by tourism enterprises, middle level workforce defined as intermediate manpower, and upper level manpower to train managers, researchers, and planners for tourism related public and private sector institutions. Due to this global epidemic, institutions providing tourism education have also started distance education. Tourism education is carried out within the framework of distance education activities in order to continue the learning process of students during the education interruption due to the measures taken by coronavirus. Accordingly, tourism education curricula cannot be implemented on a practical basis. During the pandemic process, the functioning of the tourism industry has come to a complete halt, so education has been moved to digital platforms. In this process, many practical-based courses were suspended, and these courses start to be carried out on digital platforms. And the aim of this study is to evaluate distance learning in tourism education in the direction of the views of these student views during the pandemic process. When we come to the methodology, the action research technique, which is one of the qualitative research methods, was applied in the study. The sample of the study consists of 24 students studying tourism in the 2020-2021 academic year. The research data were collected using a semi-structured interview technique. Content analysis method was used in the analysis of the data obtained. When we come to the findings, I asked 3 questions to my students for collecting their views about the tourism education in the pandemic process. And first of all, students were asked to define distance education in the study, and their options are stated in table 1. And the students' definitions on distance learning is collected under 4 themes. These are technology, no time and place limitation, student center, student access to information. 18 students, they said that they defined the distance learning as a technology, and 15 students observed, they said that there is no time and place limitations in distance learning. 11 students said that the student center, they defined the distance learning as like the student center, and 5 students said student access to information themselves during the distance education. When we come to the second question, I asked the positive effects of the pandemic in the tourism education, and I collected their views under the 4 themes. And these are participation in international seminars and certificate programs, learning how to access information, learning to use the internet and social media for professional development, and expanding the communication network. The students state that they have found a lot of opportunities during the pandemic for attending and joining the international seminars and some certificate programs, and they can easily access, and some of them is they provide the free access for them, so they can find the opportunity developing their professional skills, and also, of course, they expanded their communication network in international sites. And when we come to the barriers in tourism education due to the pandemic, it's collected under the 5 themes: lack of practical courses, inability to the internship, infrastructure and technology inadequacies, not being able to find a part-time job, and the feeling of graduating with incomplete information. And of course, a lot of students, 20 students, state that they have a problem for the practical courses. Of course, due to the pandemic, when the pandemic is interrupted for the face-to-face education, they don't find the opportunity for attending the practical basis courses. So they observed that this is a lack of their development and their develop their skills and abilities, and they don't find any opportunity for making their internship, and also, of course, the part-time job opportunities they didn't find during this pandemic. They said that when we come to the conclusion, as a result of the research, students' views on distance education during the pandemic process were evaluated. Students were primarily asked to define distance education. Students defined distance education as technology-based, student-centered, lack of time and place limitation, and learning from which the students reach the information. And when asked to evaluate the opportunities and positive effects of distance learning during the pandemic process, most of the students stated that they had the opportunity for professional development and participated in international seminars and certificate programs. When asked about the barriers that occur in tourism education with the effect of the pandemic, the students state that they experienced shortcomings in practical-based courses and could not find internship opportunities in this process. Tourism education has to be carried out as a whole, complementing each other on a theory and practice basis. Because the tourism sector has a dynamic structure, and the education provided in this field should also have a dynamic structure. So the training given should not be just theoretical. However, it has become impossible to provide practical training due to the global epidemic experience. This is supported by the results obtained. In this context, in order to ensure the sustainability of qualified human resources in tourism, students who receive tourism education should be supported with their theoretical knowledge, with the practice-based trainings, intensive with the reduction of the impact of the pandemic. After the recruitment process of the tourism students who graduate in this process, their practical knowledge should be supported with the orientation program. Thank you for listening.